Welcome into another edition of the PHNX Suns podcast. I'm your host, Espo, joined by Saul Bookman and Gerald Bourget. And gentlemen, obviously not in studio today. We had our own issues, very much like the Suns did in game one, but we're coming to you from our home studios in front of a live audience of Gerald's dog, Emma's cat, and I'm sure there's something, a fly or something in this walk-in closet with me, but glad to have you all with us. We've got plenty to look at, and guys, I just want to start here. We're a few hours, what are we, 15, 18 hours removed from last night's game. Obviously, a lot of feelings initially right after the game, but how do you feel about game one and the loss after we're a little bit removed from it?
I think we're all in consensus. Ban the money man. Right?
Yes.
I think that's one thing we can all agree on, right?
Yes.
I still feel that way, even 18 hours later. I agree, Saul.
There's a lot to get into that I really want to bring up, but I'll let Gerald take the floor first, and I'll go off of what he says.
Yeah, I feel like game one was definitely a game that you should win, and you don't ever feel good about losing home court advantage in your series opener like that, especially against a team that's missing its second best player. But I do think if you look at a lot of the problems with game one, there are things that are correctable or are hopefully easily correctable when you talk about rotations and all that stuff. And, we're going to get into all of that. But I do think a lot of it comes down to they got off to a really slow start. They let the Clippers be the aggressor in terms of setting the physicality and the tone of the game. They went down 12 in the first quarter and had to kind of dig their way out from there. And, down the stretch, they just didn't execute well. They didn't get the ball to their best player. He had one shot in the final 6 minutes. And those are things that are easily correctable and should be the case moving forward in the series.
I think the biggest thing for me is they both started and ended the game, to use our homie Johnny Venerable's words, with gross negligence on the defensive end. That's just flat out what it was. At the beginning of the game, they left. Why do I always forget the people's names? The shooter, Eric Gordon, yeah, wide open on multiple occasions because they just couldn't find their man. There was a couple times where Chris Paul thought he was supposed to be guarding one guy, and then Eric Gordon's wide open. Hey, Eric, you wide open? Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead, take a shot. Very good. And then at the end of the game, again with Kawhi, just one time wide open three, Eric Gordon another time wide open three, and then Torrey Craig just not closing up and getting into his body enough for another three straight possessions. Like, I went through that last minute and 8 seconds. And the one thing that I think I took away the most is, and I know everybody wants to say, oh, well, Saul's a DA apologist or whatever. Okay, cool. DA didn't have the greatest games in terms of being physical under the rim. He had some of the bad habits that we saw throughout the season where he's flat-footed or he gets pushed underneath the rim too much. And more importantly, he thinks he has position behind Zubac. Because Zubac is placed literally underneath the rim, but because Zubac has the leverage with being able to lower his body and get under DA to push him out, that's the problem, right? But there was far too many instances last night where, listen, rebounding is more than just a one-man effort. And there was too many times, especially in the last 5 minutes, or really the last minute and 8 seconds, I've got to hear Kawhi takes a shot. Booker straight up, not even looking at where Russell Westbrook is, doesn't even try to block him out. Ball hits the front of the rim right into Russell Westbrook's hands. The very next series of circumstances, 46 seconds. Man, wide open for three in the corner. Torrey Craig does a terrible job of just fundamentally blocking out Russell Westbrook, who then proceeds to get a hand on the ball and knock it straight off of DA's hand out of bounds. And it's not like, oh, the ball was like fumbling around DA's hand. No, it was a rocket right off of his hands. Like, he didn't have an opportunity to really catch that ball. And then the next time, Westbrook, wide open three misses, cool. DA and Zubac are battling for position underneath. The ball bounces one direction. DA and Zubac are going after it. It comes back. Again, Devin Booker doesn't find a body on anybody, and Kawhi is the one that knocks the ball off of DA's leg out of bounds. Like, that's 3 straight times where Torrey or Devin just simply didn't do their job to help out. Like, it's a team effort, especially, like, I can concede one time, maybe even two, but that third time, come on, guys. Like, we got to be better than that as a group, knowing that you're down by one and the game is on the line. And that's the thing that I was not a fan of. And DA took a lot of flack last night on social media, honestly, because I think casuals just, they look at rebounding. They're like, oh, well, shit, that DA sucks. DA can't do this. DA could. Like, I'm here to tell you that's not the case, especially in the last 5 minutes of the game. DA, I thought, played decent down the stretch. It's just everything in between that people identify as being the reason why they lost the game, in addition to a lot of the other things that Monty was responsible for, obviously.
Well, I went back and rewatched the last 5 minutes a couple times this afternoon because we had talked about it, and you and I kind of argued a little bit last night on the show about whether or not DA should have been able to get those two that hit him, and I was in the camp that he probably should have. Going back and watching, you're right. It was Devin Booker. It was Torrey Craig that were the culprits in not boxing out. I think the one that hit DA in the hands, he probably could have had. The one that hit him in the leg, there was not a chance. There was no way he could have gotten that ball. So I stand corrected on that. And it's one of those when you're watching live, sometimes it's easy to miss the little things about it. Going back and watching, I stand corrected. But where I think this was problematic was Torrey Craig, I think, was tired at that point late in the game, which leads to those kind of sloppy mistakes. And in part, that's because you freaking started him instead of having him come off the bench and not giving Josh Okogie any significant minutes in this game. I'm still upset about that, right? That still bothers me immensely. But when you look at it, this was in totality probably the worst that you could expect this team to play, especially to start a series. And they still had a chance with 17 seconds left to tie that game if they had shot a three instead of whatever that drive by Devin Booker and the subsequent complaining about foul calls was there. So I don't feel as bad as I did when watching it in real time last night.
Yeah, I mean, the starting Torrey Craig thing was out of left field, like we talked about, and it had those very real ripple effects of pretty much marginalizing the impact that Okogie can have, because on the offensive end, he's a guy that needs to play with the starters to be able to let his skill set shine. He's not a guy that's going to come in off the bench and give you offense with that group. And Torrey Craig's a guy who's proven, whether he's starting or coming off the bench, he can have that kind of impact. On the DA front, like last night was not a good game for him by any means, but like Saul was saying, that last 51 seconds where they were defending the whole time because they could not get a defensive rebound, none of those were explicitly on DA. It's everything that led up to that was problematic for me. You look at his contested rebounding percentage last night, it was incredibly low. He had one defensive rebound that he got that was contested, and Zubats had 7. Like, it's just a matter of putting a body on a guy and boxing him out. And Zubats won that matchup handily, which can't happen in this series. Like, DA has to win that matchup. And there were a lot of instances where Zubats or Mason Plumlee were getting like Saul was saying, they were getting good position under the rim, and DA wasn't able to move them out, or he was late on, creating that contact with them. He's got to be better in that regard. And I think when you look down the stretch, the bigger problem I had with him was offensively, and that was a product of what the Suns were doing in terms of favoring process over results, thinking that those mid-range jumpers that just weren't falling all night were suddenly going to start falling for Chris Paul and for DA. They had 4 possessions where DA got 2 mid-range shots for DA, 2 for Chris Paul. They missed all 4 of those. And I know DA did hit 2 shots down the stretch as well to kind of balance it out, but that was during a prolonged stretch where they hadn't gotten Kevin Durant the ball, where they hadn't really gotten Devin Booker the ball either. Down the stretch, you need to get your lead playmakers involved. That's something that Monty talked about at practice today in terms of things that they can adjust moving forward. But it is something that they have to be better about down the stretch, because you look at what the Clippers did. They got the ball to their best player and let him cook. And that's what he did. He hit really tough shots in the mid-range. He hit those 2 threes. One of them, Torrey Craig shouldn't have sagged off as far as he did. The other one was a tough one. And then the one that Eric Gordon got was a byproduct of the Suns having to double Kawhi. So it's one of those situations where the Suns need to create those circumstances on their side of things. If you get an open mid-range for DA off of that, where he's wide open, or a wide open catch and shoot three for Chris Paul, that's fine. But it has to start with those guys being doubled and making the right play.
How do you go? I can't even fathom. How do you go a significant stretch of the fourth quarter? And I mean by significant, at least 5+ minutes. And you don't want to run one PNR and you don't run one double drag. What in the fuck are we even doing out here? We've been doing this shit all season long. And now we get to the most important part of this game and the most important quarter of the season to this point. And you just completely lose track of what you're trying to do and who you are and what your identity is. That was my thing. It's just like, everybody's going to point to Kevin Durant not touching the ball hardly at all down the stretch, and deservedly so. But that's also a byproduct of Monty Williams just losing complete control and not really focusing on like, hey, guys, we need to run this set or we need to do this, or telling Chris, hey, get into this motion or this action. Like, what are we doing? It was just really baffling to me. But to your point, Gerald and Espo, these are correctable things. And if you're going to look at a silver lining, that should make you feel better about the future of this series, should they be able to fix those mental errors.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about Book. And I know that probably sounds crazy, but you look down the stretch and we got, at least in that final 2 minutes, it very much, even on the rewatch, felt like we got emotional Book. After he made that save for the end one that cut that lead down to 1, I believe, we didn't get the calm, composed Devin Booker. Didn't box out on Russell Westbrook. Fouls Russell Westbrook when they're down 1 and they're trying to get a defensive stop there. It was not a smart foul. The final play, driving to the hoop rather than taking the step back 3 and driving the hoop on Russ, a guy that he struggled with all night once he got down towards the basket, and then complaining about the foul rather than paying attention to where the ball was and letting Russ throw it off him. It was not the composed Devin Booker we're used to seeing there down the stretch.
It wasn't. I don't know how much, like, Russ made a great play. I don't have any problem with him trying to drive on a guy that all season long has not been good defensively. He's been better with the Clippers. He played the defensive game of his life last night and wound up being the Clippers' second best player despite shooting 3 of 19 because he made a hell of a play there. I don't have an issue with that as much. And I do think, if they had maybe gotten the ball to Kevin Durant a couple times down the stretch, like they should have, we're talking about Book's save to Torrey Craig that led to an and one as a game-changing moment in momentum there. But instead, they went with Book, and that's fine. Like, I'm fine with Book taking that shot, but I do think, he does need to be better down the stretch. I think if you have a bench that can give you some decent minutes, maybe Book's not playing 43 minutes or whatever it was. Maybe Kevin Durant's not playing 45 minutes. Especially in game 1 against a shorthanded Clippers team. Like, that's not ideal for the rest of this series. But I do think they have the talent to win out, and they've got to realize that game 1 needs to be an anomaly. If we could bring up Kevin Durant's usage over his career in the playoffs, or his recent career in the playoffs, if you look at the numbers, like game 1 was very much an anomaly in that regard. I think his usage was something like 7%. And normally it's 20, 30, even 40 in a couple of playoff instances there. So that's something that needs to be corrected moving forward.
I would say this too. Bickley and Murata, I'll give them credit. They had a really I almost swerved off the road when I heard these stats in terms of Devin Booker and his clutch time minutes this season specifically. Shooting 37% from the field, 19% from 3, and 64% from the free throw line. When I heard that, I was like, there ain't no fucking way. There ain't no fucking way. And I went back and I looked at his stats on the NBA website, and sure as shit, that is the case. And I don't know what happened between this year and last year. But whatever he was drinking before the game or at halftime or going into the fourth quarter, might want to go back to that, because that's not a good sign for what's to come. Or maybe it is a sign that you should go to KD instead of Devin in the fourth quarter, which I know everybody would like to see a little bit more of anyway.
What bothered me, though, is you had to waste your last timeout because you couldn't get the ball unbounded. You have 17 seconds left. You're down 3, right? You don't take the step back 3, which has been a move that Devin has been successful on, and you go for the 2. But the problem is you're still going to have to foul if you don't get an end 1 there. You have no timeout. You've put yourself behind the 8 ball. I don't understand why you're not thinking 3 there and having something drawn up that's 3 rather than going for that 2. I'm nitpicking, but to me, that was in a game where you were having so many problems. It felt like maybe you should have gone for the tie there than trying to get cute and hoping you could cut it to 1 and then it cause a foul.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's 20/20 in that regard. I do think like Booker had success attacking the basket last night. He was getting by Russ. He was getting by Eric Gordon and finishing well. And you look at his mid-range attempts, the Suns had missed a lot of those. I don't know how confident I feel in a pull-up 3 off the dribble for Book in that scenario versus putting his head down and getting to the rim. I'd probably put more stock in that, even with being down 3. But again, like for me, it's the defensive rebounding thing. It's the not getting Kevin Durant touches or letting him bring the ball up the court, those types of things. And that was actually something that Monty Williams spoke about at practice today. If we have the clip for ways that moving forward into game 2, they'll be able to adjust and hopefully get him more touches there.
No, it's everything. It's needing to get him the ball in certain spots, them doing a good job of denying him the ball, but we can create some more environments for him to live freely in live ball situations. And then sometimes just giving him the ball so he can bring it up the floor and create opportunities.
Plays that you're not necessarily forcing the offense, but going to his attack
mode. Yeah, I think he has the license to play in attack mode all the time. He takes the right shots. He can get his shot off anytime. Are there a few times where he could have taken the shot and not passed it? Yeah, but I don't want to get in his head. I think he's always trying to make the right plays, but he knows the right play is him shooting the ball, and everybody else knows that.
It's kind of fitting. It's kind of fitting that I think that's Dwayne wearing that shirt. It says everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And I was like, well, shit. That's exactly what happened last night.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It was the appropriate shirt. Monty had a plan. They got punched in the mouth, and now he's got to adjust for game 2. Like,
yeah, that's for anyone who's interested. I did write about that over at Go PHNX. A couple of adjustments the Suns can make that are easy. Maybe they won't be made. Hopefully they will. But I do think, like he was saying, getting him in live ball situations, letting him take it up the court even so he can initiate, and letting Kevin know, like, hey, I know you're trying to make the right play, but the right play is you shooting sometimes. Like, we need that from you. And Durant denied that it was part of that feeling out process with a new team as far as, being off the ball a little bit more. He was saying, I was just spacing the floor for my teammates and we got good shots. We just missed them. But like at a certain point, you need to be more assertive. Like that's what they went and got him for.
yeah, I mean, I don't need him to be assertive in the post-game press conference, but you're right, on the court. I definitely do. Especially, you know what, if they have Batum on him to start a game, I give KD the ball and go, see if you can make this guy the pigeon. See if you can take him off the dribble. Make them pay for going that route. Force them to put Kawhi on him at some point and maybe make things a little easier for Devin, or have him, whatever they have to do, like try that, experiment with that. I don't need to see 24 minutes of Landry Shamet come tomorrow. I appreciated his defense or his effort on the defensive end, but I've got enough guys who can play backup point guard who aren't point guards that aren't named Landry Shamet. I'd rather see Josh Okogie at times initiate the offense than having Landry Shamet be that guy. So I hope that they go to more point Durant, point Book, and figure out things like you're saying, Gerald, and simply, and I think you mentioned this earlier too, run your offense. Just run your
Yeah.
offense.
That was something I asked Monty about today, because he had mentioned they didn't run a lot of their stuff. And so I was asking him, like, look, you guys are a great mid-range team. Looking back at the film, did you feel like, because a lot of the shots that the Clippers were giving them were those mid-range shots, those long mid-range shots. During the regular season, according to Cleaning the Glass, the Suns took 40% of their shots from the mid-range. In game one, it was 65%, which is crazy. And they just missed a lot of those shots. So I was asking him, how do you kind of weigh process versus results there when, you know, you guys have been good at that all season, but they're not falling? And he was kind of saying, like, give the Clippers credit. They kind of pigeonholed us into taking some of those, more of those shots than we normally would. But when we get those shots, we do have to make them. So as much as make your shots is not groundbreaking analysis, it was pretty, it was pretty fitting for this game, because you look at it, if they just make two more of those, like Booker, CP, even KD coming off some of those screens and being wide open, like, they win that game. So that's something to keep an eye on. I do think that'll progress to the mean in game two if they get those same shots.
Yeah, it's make your shots, and also don't give up the extra possessions. I think they gave up 10 extra possessions in that game. And when you started yourself at a deficit the way they did, you can't come back again and again while allowing them to get those extra possessions. It's just not something you can do. Let's look at a few of the.
I did hear that they were going to more of a platoon system for the next game. They're going to incorporate Campaign and TJ Warren, so we will be going 13 deep in game two, folks.
Oh boy!
Why not throw them all out there? I mean, figure out a way to sneak Saban Lee in, even though it's illegal. Whatever it takes. Let's just get everybody. Everybody deserves a little playing time, right? It's the playoffs.
11 guys in a playoff game is just absurd to me.
So I did ask Monty about that, because I was curious. I was asking him, like, so you got 10 guys in there in the first half. Like, was that a product of searching for someone that worked, or going with the flow? Like, what was that? And he was saying, like, it was a product of searching for guys who would give the juice, because, and this is something that's on the starters, he didn't feel they started the game off with the right juice. And we all kind of saw it as well. He felt like that percolated through the roster. So he got more guys in there because he was looking for something, any type of energy there. And he also mentioned the foul trouble. You know, Torrey Craig had some foul trouble that took him out early. I think DA got there in the second half. So that forced him to mix things up a little bit. But I do think hopefully in game two, we'll see a much more concise, much shorter rotation, because you look at all the lineups that they trotted out there, a lot of them played for 1, 2, 3 minutes, and they were all negatives. And it's hard to get in a flow when you're constantly changing up the 5 guys that are out there. Yeah. That's something that he really needs to correct and be better in game two and the rest of the series.
That to me is where Ty Lue coached circles around Monty last night, is that Ty Lue just has a better feel for his team and what they can do at any given moment than he does, than Monty does. And Monty's been coaching this team for all season. You know exactly what these guys provide. You should be able to identify, okay, Ish is feeling good tonight, or so-and-so is feeling good tonight. But he constantly struggles with that. And then he's given minutes to Landry Shamet because that's his default. That is his default, is to give minutes to Landry Shamet because he doesn't know what to get from Terrence Ross or TJ Warren or whoever else. So he limits their opportunities to really get into a groove and find themselves. And by nature, he limits his own team's opportunities to really thrive in key situations because you're letting guys kind of work themselves in the lather. Listen, if we're going to lose game one anyway, you might as well give these guys a little bit more burn on the court than just saying, oh, well, let me play everybody and then let me put Ish again in there for a brief 2 minutes where he absolutely gets torched and then pull him out just because I like to have fun. It's just a little whim I like to play. Like, come on, man. I'm tired of this, Monty.
Let's take a look at some of the super chats that we had come in. Libertarian Sasquatch, still the best name in the chat. 989 super chat. I'll be honest, almost 24 hours removed. I still hate the decision to change up the starting lineup and make all these quote unquote adjustments before a single minute of basketball has been played. And I think that is a fair point. I feel like Monty outsmarted himself by trying to make a move before it was necessary.
I would have said the other way around.
What?
He outdumbed himself.
Oh.
There's nothing smart about what he did last night. Not even a little bit.
Yeah, that was making a move for the sake of trying to catch your opponent off guard. We talked about it on the post-game show last night. It felt like he had a week to sit there and stew on this matchup, and he overthought it. And look, Torrey Craig individually played great, but like we said, there were ripple effects of that. He marginalized Josh Okogie, and Craig can still have an impact off the bench. He's not going to, drop 22 on 9 of 12 shooting like he did, but a part of that was the product of the way the Clippers were playing him. They wanted Torrey Craig to shoot. He made them pay. I don't know if you can count on that type of production moving forward. And for the sake of having a coherent rotation and putting guys in spots where they're more comfortable, why not go back to the lineup you had for the 8 games that you actually did have Kevin Durant on the court? That one was still surprising to me, and I hope that he makes the switch back for game 2. But we'll see, because he did mention wanting to put size on Kawhi with Torrey Craig, with Ish. And at this point, like, Torrey Craig should be coming off the bench. Ish should not be anywhere near the playoff rotation. And Jock is a guy that should be coming off the bench because of the way that he plays against this matchup.
Dude, if your solution to guarding Kawhi is saying the words Ish Wainwright, we've already lost. I love Ish. He's a really good dude. He is. But good people don't win championships all the time, okay? You can't match up one of the greatest players to ever grace the court with a guy that's barely getting minutes on a decent NBA team. Like, you just can't do that. What are we doing?
If he started Ish Wade right, we know he's really overthinking all of it. Hey, I better catch Ty Lue off guard by going, here's the guy that was on a 2-way earlier this year. I don't think that'll happen.
Secret
we'll
sauce.
go back to it. Submerged Sun fan said, gentlemen, do you think Okogie gets the start next game on the $2 super chat? I'm going to say yes. I know that he wants size, but I think he's also going to look at it and go, did I overthink it? And he'll put Okogie back in that starting lineup.
Hey, I would tell you like this. If he doesn't start Josh Okogie and the same result happens in game 2, he's going to get a sheet of paper like this slid to him. Come see the owner. Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if he will make the switch. I hope he does. It was one of my 5 adjustments that I wrote about, but we'll have to see.
He reads your articles. I know he does.
He's going to pack it to everybody in the arena, or everybody that works for the team. I can tell you that much. Frank in the super chat 199 says, why do NBA coaches take less blame compared to the NFL? Well, I think it's in part because there's only 17 games in an NFL season, so every little decision is under a microscope when you have so few games. But I think we've proven on this show that NBA coaches can take a lot of shrapnel as well.
But plus, you have a quicker turnaround to redeem yourself.
Yes.
So we're sitting here bitching, but tomorrow they could beat the brakes off the Clippers, and everybody will be like, "Oh, Monty made adjustments. What a great move!" And then that's it. And you move on.
Right. But in the NFL, you played like 17 games, and then the playoffs. And the NBA, you played almost 4 times that amount, and the game is much more fast paced. So your mistakes from a coaching perspective are less glaring. And a lot of the stuff with football it feels like pretty straightforward stuff that a lot of coaches are like super old school about. That would be my reasoning. But especially with Suns Twitter lately, it feels like Monty's taken enough flack compared to the average NFL coach.
Submerged Suns fan again with another $2 super chat says, Gerald, any word on Cam?
Not yet. We are waiting word for tomorrow's injury report. We should be getting that here semi soon. So if we get it on the show, definitely have an update for you there. If not, I'll have it on Twitter here within the next couple hours.
And Manuel, our final super chat for right now, $5. What's Monty's strange fascination with playing the guys who do virtually nothing except hustle? First Nader, now Shamet, and they still get cooked. Why? For me, this is simple. Guys who are like themselves if they were former players. We've seen James Jones go after his type of guy. Monty Williams, I think, plays his type of guy, and that's the way Monty's game was. It was hustle. It was trying to outwork guys. So I think he has a soft spot for those kind of players, quite frankly.
I will say this right now. It hurts my brain. It hurts my brain that we traded a first-round pick and Javon Carter for Landry Shamet.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
but we
first
also
round
gave
pick
him
was
$44 million.
the first round pick was Day'Ron Sharp, so I'm not sweating that as much. But yeah, Javon Carter was really good here, and he's been really good for the Bucks. So that one kind of stings. Look, Landry's gonna always be a scapegoat unless he shoots really well. He did have a pretty bad plus minus last night in game one. He made a couple of decent plays, but yeah, there's no justifying him playing 24 minutes in a playoff game, even with Cam Payne out. And it does feel like Monty favors defense a lot more heavily than he does offense. You look at the Okogie, Wainwright, Biyombo lineup that we got. That was the one that was a -5 in 2 minutes. And then there was one with Landale and Biyombo's place to close the third quarter that was a -4 in 2 minutes. And that's how the Clippers ended the third quarter on an 11-3 run that turned what felt like the Suns were about to blow it open into a tie game heading into the fourth. That totally changed the complexion of the game. So it's one of those things where I understand wanting to have defense because the Clippers bench has a lot of scoring options, but you need to just put your best players out there. Like, you need to give TJ Warren a shot. You need to give Terrence Ross more run, which he said he should have done in game one. Just put your best players out there. And if they become defensive liabilities, then adjust. But that all defense lineup was not it.
I don't know if we have the graphic, but this is exactly what happened at the end of the third quarter.
Oh, come on.
Mr. Freeze.
Come on.
Mr. Freeze. You can't have too much of a good thing, Gerald, and Monty will make damn sure of that.
I didn't know that Mr. Freeze could show up before tip, but he did yesterday. Hey, 8-0 with that starting lineup? Screw that. Here's somebody else. You know where you're not going to get freezed out, though? The BetMGM app. The BetMGM app is our new sportsbook partner, and I'm so happy to have them along with us. I've really enjoyed some of their parlays that they have, some of their props that they have. I've been having fun betting on who's going to win the tip, which is the most ridiculous, arbitrary thing that doesn't matter, which makes it really fun for me to bet on. And you can do that in the BetMGM app. I actually won some money on it, so it's fun to do it. I suggested DA last night at -500. I won a total Smith bet, and he lost the tip. So sorry about that, everybody. But it's fun to play there, and I highly recommend that you check out the BetMGM app. And when you do, sign up using that promo code PHNX. But don't forget, we're going to be out at the BetMGM Sportsbook for every Suns road playoff game for the watch parties brought to you by Neutral. We're excited to be out there. And if you have downloaded the app and use that promo code PHNX, you're going to get deposit matches that are specifically made for those of you that show up and hang out with us at those road playoff games. So make sure to be out there and be signed up with that. It's the State Farm Stadium BetMGM Sportsbook. There's going to be food and drink specials, giveaways. Like I mentioned, those mystery deposits. You're going to have a lot that you can get and do while we're out there. And they're also going to have $6 Rally the Valley margaritas. And if game 3 is anything like game 1, you're going to need plenty of them. So come on out and enjoy those along with us. And if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, like I said, use that promo code PHNX. There are a few different offers depending on where you live, but if you're in Arizona, you're going to get $100 in bonus bets on your first wager with BetMGM, and it's super easy. Download the app, use the code like I said. Place a pregame money line wager in the amount of at least $10 on any standard odds pick, and you're going to receive $100 in bonus bets instantly, regardless of the outcome of your game. Yeah, that's right. Regardless of the outcome of your wager, you're getting those bonus bets. So make sure to join us for those games. Now let's hear Shane give you the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
I've always wondered what that read would sound like well high. And our friends at the OG's brands can really help us out with that. They've got the best scratch-made THC gummies in the business, and they're made right here in Arizona. They've my favorite flavor is the strawberry and cream. I think that one is spectacular. I love that. I know, Saul, you've done the sleep time gummy that's in aquaberry, right? I mean, how's that flavor?
I've done them all.
What's your favorite then?
I go hard. My favorite's always orange creamsicle, but they got the watermelon. They got the strawberries and cream. Obviously, they're all yummy. Enjoy them all. They're fantastic.
I love that song goes, I go hard. Well, I eat my strawberries and cream. Like, the concept just sounds a little ridiculous. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, well, hey, I guess what? You will have the opportunity to look hard yourself when we go to Vegas, and I will give you multiple gummies, and we'll see how you last, buddy.
Hey, I will walk around that concourse for hours looking hard, apparently. Hey, make sure I mentioned that strawberries and cream, but you can try them out. It's their new CBD THC 1-to-1 ratio Happy Balance gummies. It's spectacular. Highly recommend you try those out. I did. I really like that one personally myself. So be sure to be on the lookout across PHNX social platforms for exciting announcements with our friends from OG's Brands, and make sure to pick up your new OG's Brands collab shirt with us. It's Phoenix giving the peace sign. It's the first time you'll see that man happy. Phoenix has never been happy a day since he's been created. I won't say in his life, but since he's been drawn, he hasn't been happy a day since then. But he is with our friends from OG's. You can find them at your local dispensaries and at ogsbrands.com. Must be 21 and older to enjoy. Please enjoy responsibly. And now we got to think about game 2. We've talked a lot about game 1. We've tried to make ourselves feel better. I'm not sure if we've managed that. But game 2, what are the keys here? What do you do to make this better? And make shots is not an acceptable answer because that's a given.
Well, you just listen. It's pretty simple for me. You just got to shore up things on the defensive end. You had a lot of lapses, like I said, in the beginning and the end of the game that you could have easily shored up. It was just a lot of communication, miscommunication, not really knowing what your assignments are, not knowing where your man is. I mean, it felt like very basic, fundamental stuff. Like I said before at the beginning of the show, there was one play where Chris Paul literally is running back on defense, and he looks over to the right, and he sees I forgot who it was over on the right side, but Booker was already guarding him. And then he looks over to the left, and Eric Gordon just takes, nice 2 little dribbles right into the shot, and well, that was it. Like, you got to be better about that. You have to know what's going on, and that's also on DA being the last line of defense and being able to see everything and anchor guys and Chris, get over here or turn around or whatever. Like, just a bunch of small little things that I think are very, very correctable. I'm not panicking like I did, I feel like, right after the game because, when you're in the moment and you're trying to absorb it and you don't have time to go back and watch and see why things happened, you tend to panic. But after watching the game, I do feel much, much better about where the Suns can go, provided, as, of course, I said before, they can fix those simple mistakes. And then just you got to make a better effort as a team to rebound. It's not just on one guy. DA's got to be much, much stronger down low. But Booker, Craig, everybody needs to do a much better job of blocking out, keeping their man sealed. That's where Josh Okogie comes in, because if you want to match Russell Westbrook's energy, there's the guy that could do it. Money needs to make that adjustment.
Yeah, these are all things that I wrote about today, but starting Josh Okogie, it starts there. I think Craig he's a longer, bigger defender against Kawhi. You need some of that physicality, but he did get in foul trouble, and it didn't stop Kawhi from going off. So I think you should try something like Okogie who I think it was Mike V. Hill pointed out on Twitter. He's better at fighting through screens. And there were a lot of pin downs or cross screens where Kawhi just came off for an open look and Craig was just a step behind. If you have Okogie in that shot, you can get maybe a better contest or prevent him from even catching the ball in those situations at all. And it puts your bench rotation back in a more comfortable place. It puts the starters in a more comfortable place because that's the group that KD has gotten the most reps with to this point in his son's tenure. So I think that's part of it. And another thing that Monty brought up, running their offense. Obviously, we talked about just needing to make more shots, but it goes deeper than that, because if you are not making those shots, you need to be able to play and paint to great. And they didn't really do that very much last night. They only generated 19 threes. And I think the Clippers had 31. Like, that's just not going to cut it. Obviously, defenses are going to try and cut down on your number of three-point attempts. But if you're not forcing rotations, if you're not getting drive and kicks, if you're doing one pass actions all night, like, that makes it very easy to defend you in a playoff caliber setting. You just have to be physical. The Clippers are a subpar defense. They've been 17th in defensive rating all season. You need to make that defense rotate. You need to make them work. And like we said, down the stretch, you need to put the ball in the hands of your two best players. As much as you want Chris Paul and DA pick and rolls to still be part of the offense, because it's a highly effective part of your offense, you need to just give the ball to your best players down the stretch and let them cook.
Yeah, I think that with your Josh Okogie point, we talked about the extra possessions they gave up, but Josh Okogie, I think, had the fourth most offensive rebounds from a guard in franchise history for a season this year. He can create extra possessions for the Suns himself. He can't do that, though, when he only plays 7 minutes. He's got to be out there and be able to do that. So I agree with you wholeheartedly there. If he's not starting, he sure as hell better play with a lot of those starters at different times during the game, and better be more than 7 minutes in that. I think you got to give Terrence Ross more than 4 minutes too, and let him see if he can get hot and score with that second group, because they had 2 points through the first half in game one. Both of them were Bismack Biyombo threes, and 6 points through 3 quarters. And Jock Landale had those 4 points. So 6 of your points came from your backup center position. You had no other points from anybody else out there in that second unit. You need to have Terrence Ross start to get hot. Or TJ Warren. One of those guys has to figure out how to be an effective part of that second unit and score for me. And then, put a body on somebody. I think it's that simple. If they did not today at practice have somebody who was playing the Russell Westbrook role in scrimmage, and the only goal was make sure somebody's putting a body on him, I think it was a missed opportunity, because that should be their 100% focus going into game 2, is who's got Russ and who's putting a body on him. No offensive rebounds, especially from that guy, because if he hadn't gotten those offensive rebounds, he would have been a big reason why the Suns won, was this 3 of 20 shooting. But instead, you let him get in there and play a role, and that's just not something you can allow in game 2. I think that's a major point of emphasis there.
One of the things that you brought up kind of indirectly, both of you, in terms of Josh Okogie, is not only can he fight over screens, but it also forces Monty, if he's worried about the size matchup against Kawhi, it also forces Monty to throw different things at Kawhi. I think far too often, to me, it felt like the default was, let me go with a guy that can physically match up with Kawhi, and that will relieve the pressure from everybody else having to kind of figure things out. And it didn't work. Like, with guys like Kawhi, it doesn't matter if you're the best defender in the NBA. Once he figures you out, you're toast. You're toast. So you can't show him the same thing over and over again, much like the Clippers did not show KD the same thing over and over again. They threw different things at him each time he touched the ball, and they forced him to have to think and slow down a little bit. And it worked to a certain degree, and depending on which quarter you want to talk about. But overall, great players will figure you out. You got to throw different things at them.
Yeah, no, I agree on that. And if your main focus is, how are we going to play defense on Kawhi, I think that might be the wrong strategy. I think your strategy might be let Kawhi get his, and we got to shut down every single one of these other, B-level players that are out here because those are the guys that really beat you in game one. Kawhi had his, but you let other guys out there get theirs, and that's problematic. There's nobody on this Clippers roster that should be able to light up this Suns group if they're actually, on it defensively, and they just weren't. We talked about the backdoor cuts last night that 4 or 5 of those you get wide open layups. You start cleaning that stuff up, this is going to be a much better series for the Suns.
Yeah, completely agree. They know what they need to do, and Monty did mention as far as the defensive rebounding thing, he did say part of it was not boxing out their guards, not putting a body on them and letting them get interior positioning before they got a body on anybody. So I don't think NBA teams really practice box out drills. I don't think that's just how they function, but hopefully in game 2, they'll be much better in that respect.
I don't know if
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if my team looked that bad at boxing out in game 1, I'd say, to hell what's normal convention. I'm going to make you do this to make a point.
And everybody would be like, yeah, I'm not playing for that coach anymore.
Well, they weren't playing for him all that well last night. So.
One of the other things that I know Monty kind of talked about was just not taking advantage of mismatches. When they had a smaller lineup out there, the Clippers did, not once did they ever really try to expose that in any pick and action role, or even just setting up their bigs for better opportunities in other places. Like, they got to do a better job. Like, again, hundreds of opportunities that feel like were missed last night, and despite all that, they did only lose by 1 possession. It's not the end of the world. It's not the greatest thing. You wish that they maybe could do a sweep. They still have an opportunity for a gentleman's sweep, even though I think a gentleman's sweep, you still have to win like the first game of the series. I'm not sure how that all works.
No, you lose one and you take the last 4. It's the backdoor sweep.
Is it just 5?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the gentleman thing to do is let them have the first one and lull them to sleep and then take the last 4. That's why it's called a gentleman's sweep, damn it. If you want to be a gentleman, you should go over to Burrito Express today and get your loved one a fantastic burrito. They're locally owned, and they give back to the community, and they support our friends over to ASU Athletics. Once someone gets a burrito in their hand, they're hooked. Yeah, you heard that. You get a burrito in your hand from Burrito Express, and you're going to be hooked. And I can attest to that because I had one while I was driving home today from the office. I love the steak and potato burrito myself, and I also love the Tempe location. Been there a few times. Actually grew up near the Chandler location as well, so I highly recommend you check them out throughout the valley. Thank you to them for providing us with food in the office today. Gerald, I highly recommend you stop in the office tomorrow and get your burrito. They're in the fridge. You can grab a burrito and follow Burrito Express on Twitter at Burrito EXP today. And then game time, if you're trying to get into tomorrow's game, tickets may be cheaper than they were the other day. I don't know. There may not be as much excitement. And if you want to save up to 60% off when you buy your tickets, buy them last second with the Game Time app and use that code PHNX. I've loved it. We looked at it last week, and there were tickets for this game going for as little as $58, right? And when you use the code PHNX and you make your first purchase, you're going to get an additional $20 off. So you could have gotten into game 2 for $38 as of last week. So you're not going to find a better price in tickets in the Valley or anywhere across the country than you will with Game Time. And you don't have to just use it for sporting events. I used it for concerts. I know some people have used it for shows. You can find anything and everything you want. It's the fastest growing ticket app in America. So snag tickets without stress with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and as I said, use that code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem that code PHNX for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today for last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed, and do it for Game 2 tomorrow. Gerald, practice today. You were out there at the 5G Performance Center, or whatever the hell they call it. I don't know why they can't just call it the practice facility, but I guess they call it the lab as well. You were out there. What did we learn from Monty and the guys that gave you some insight on what to expect tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about a lot of it in terms of running their offense, in terms of process over results, in terms of getting Kevin Durant the ball late down the stretch. But a couple of things that we haven't touched on, we did speak to Jock Landale, who last night a lot of people didn't realize was his first playoff game. And he was saying the first minute or so was kind of frantic. It was he was antsy. There was a lot going on in his head about getting his rhythm and his comfort level to where it needed to be, because he had been hearing for so long, like NBA playoff basketball, it's totally different. And he felt like once he kind of settled in, he was able to make some plays that had an impact. Obviously would have liked to have those 2 open jumpers that he had. But I asked him about this matchup and where he feels his skill set can help. And he pointed out, like, a lot of my best games in the NBA so far have come against the Clippers. And it's not because they're some pushover team, but I just match up well with this team. I like playing this team. And when I catch the ball in the short roll, he feels like he's proven throughout the season that he can be effective in those spots with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, getting him the ball in the short roll and trusting him with that. He felt like he was able to make an impact in game 1 a little bit in that regard. And he felt like he didn't punish mismatches as much as he should have. But now that he's got his first playoff game under his belt, he feels more confident in being able to do that moving forward. So hopefully that is something that we see in game 2. I feel like Busy is good for certain matchups, but this is not necessarily one of them. I think Jock's offensive skill set would be a great fit for this series. So hopefully we see Jock get the brunt of those minutes at backup center, because this is a matchup where he's been able to shine in the past and where on paper it makes sense for him to play over Biyombo in this case.
Yeah, I love that it's NBA playoff basketball. It's different. It sounds like the worst marketing slogan ever, but it is the truth for guys like Jock who haven't experienced it. And all things considered, I thought he played pretty well in the limited minutes that he got out there. He was one of the few guys that got on the offensive boards out there. So I'm glad that he got that first experience out of the way, and I think he could be a key contributor in this series moving forward.
Yeah, and the other thing that we heard from practice, a minor thing that was kind of funny, though, was, Torrey Craig was talking about how when he learned that he would be starting instead of coming off the bench, he didn't approach it any differently, because all season long he's kind of been vacillating back and forth between the bench and the starting unit. But he was asked, well, did you see like a career playoff high 22 points, 9 of 12 shooting coming? And he said, if I'd have known I was going to be guarded by Zubats, I would have thought some of that coming. The aggregator websites are already taking that quote and running with it. So I just want everyone to know that he was joking. It was just a lighthearted joke. But that was something that was amusing to me on the lighter side of things, because I know after a playoff loss, everybody wants everybody to be so serious-faced and straightforward. Yeah. But I think it's a good sign that the Suns they're pissed off, obviously, about the way that game 1 went, but they're not panicking or like overly concerned about it.
Everybody needs to get fired. Everybody needs to get benched. Everybody needs to get traded. Like, Jesus.
And it's my fault for not asking the tough questions.
My God. Gerald, let's talk about that for just a split second, okay? The fact that people would even insinuate that not only you have as much impact on the team as Monty Williams, and then the second thing that threw me off is, what kind of fucking benefits are you getting for covering this team? What kind of kickbacks? What kind of like splurges and side things that we don't know about outside of the fucking popcorn that the Suns offer you at halftime? There's really nothing that you ever get that's like a tangible benefit for being a reporter covering a team.
That's not true. You could hang out in a cement hallway for hours at a time in the bowels of the arena. There's nothing quite like that.
Look, I'm 100% blessed to do what I do. I love my job, and the Suns PR people have always been good to me, but there is no way, shape, or form that providing favorable coverage gives me advantages in terms of access, in terms of how much money I make. They have no say in that whatsoever. So I would like to set the record straight about that. And also, like, it was funny that the one guy that was coming at me hard for not asking tougher questions about why Monty's doing this and that with his rotations was someone who A, doesn't follow me, B, has probably never read my work, and C, like, we've been asking those questions a lot of the time. That's why when I come to you with these answers about why Monty said this or what he had to say about that, like, I know a lot of people roll their eyes at what he's saying, but like, you got to go back to the fact that he's saying these things because we asked him questions about it. He's not just randomly spouting off this information. So again, I know people get worked up this time of year when their favorite team loses, but like, coming at me for not asking tougher questions when we are asking these questions, like, give me a break.
Why didn't you ask him if the Landry Shamet DNA test has come back and if he's the father? Why did you not ask that, Gerald?
But also, like, the other thing that I think is just such a big misnomer is the fact that the Phoenix media isn't hard. They're not tough on these guys, and they don't ask the hard questions and stuff like that. I'm like, first of all, there's not 50 of them. You know, like in the New York market or LA markets, there's not like 20, 25 people just swarming. There's only 4 or 5. And you guys have built a relationship with the coaches. They know exactly what's coming their way. They're professional speakers too. They know how to skirt around topics and not give every little, detail. So you're only going to go so far before you burn that relationship, and then you don't get information that you really do need or really do want down the road. And it's not, cowering down to them. It's knowing when to push hard and when to just kind of back off. Now, each situation is different, and there's nuance to this. And that's the thing that just pisses me off. You think you could do a better job? Well, then fucking you go do it. But I guarantee you, you're not going to be any better. If not, you're going to be significantly worse. So shut the fuck up and go back to your coloring book. You tar.
No, look, hey, I think some people could ask the hard questions, but they'd be rude, they'd be ineffective, and they get thrown out. And it's not that you're not willing to ask the hard questions. There's a way to ask questions to get an answer, to get an actual answer, and it's not being weak. Enough of that. It's inside baseball.
Right. You a lot of times the worst, bad, dumb questions get the most viral responses, but if you're always that guy asking that question, you're never going to get insightful answers that actually provide information. So, and a lot of the thing that gets lost in this is people that want to ask the hard questions and be like, I would ask that question. Yeah, if you ask that question, good luck, because you have to see that person the next day and the day after that and the day after that. A lot of these people think they're tough and would ask all these biting questions. But in reality, like, it is something of a professional relationship. And you can still ask your questions and get the right answers, but you have to learn people's tendencies, what they respond well to and what they don't respond well to, if you want to get the answers you're really looking for.
Yeah, you can show up at media day and at a playoff press conference and have to reintroduce yourself every time and ask the hard question and look like an idiot and get stared at by the 2 best players on the team, or you can do the damn job. All right. And thanks for doing the damn job, Gerald.
I remember Kelly Oubre, a new guy showed up and asked a basic fundamental question, but that he had answered at least half a dozen times if you had shown up every single day. And he literally looked at the guy and goes, guy, I fucking talked about that shit last week. Next question. Like, and it's fact. Like, it's just true. I remember asking Rich Rodriguez when he was at the University of Arizona, how come you don't recruit Texas? He goes, why? Because everything's bigger in Texas? Guess what he did the next week? He started hitting Houston. They hear you. They might not like the questions, but they hear you.
Well, and look, I'll give a little story time if you guys don't mind. When I was there, first couple of days that Gerald Green was with the team, I got a chance to sit down with him, and I asked him about the dunk contest, and he had a very visceral reaction to it, and it really caught me off guard. Like, he got super angry about it and was like, I'm not talking about, like, super angry. But over time, because I was there, I got to know Gerald Green and understood that he didn't want to just be thought of as a dunker, and that was a question that people that would just show up every once in a while would always ask, and it frustrated him. Where we looked at it as, it's a jumping off point because that's what everybody knows this guy about, right? So to me, it's about putting in the time, getting to know them. There is, like you said, a professional relationship that's built, so there's an understanding. I'm here doing my job. You're here doing your job, and I'm going to ask you this in a fair way, and you're going to give me a fair response, and that's the way it goes. So I feel like I could really use a drink right now, and luckily, I've got a Wow Wheat right here with me from our friends over at Four Peaks.
How long has that been sitting there?
I have a kilt lifter over here.
Where did you pull that from?
Yeah.
Hop IPA. I got a hazy. I'm not sure I'd actually drink. I think this has been in here a year. I'm not going to lie. They're props for our ad read. I have my own drinkable ones downstairs. But our friends at Four Peaks, always happy to talk about them because they get the best beer in the Valley, and you can hit up their 8th Street pub and enjoy their fantastic food as well. And you know that the PHNX crew is going to be out there April 27th for the NFL draft starting at 2 p.m. We'll have all your coverage. There's going to be $3 Red Bird Lager out there. You're going to have our normal pints of kilt lifter and Wow Wheat for $3. There's all sorts of specials you're going to be able to get, and you're going to get the best NFL draft coverage when it comes to your Cardinals in the Valley. So click the link in the description, reserve your tickets, and head out to that Four Peaks 8th Street pub on April 27th. You won't regret it. It's going to be a lot of fun out there. And hey, pick up the Valley of Death shirt. Like we said, it's either going to be truthful or a real ironic shirt to wear here in a few weeks. And it's one of my favorite designs we've ever had, a real cool scorpion look. You can check it out at phnxlocker.com. That's phnxlocker.com. One of the best designs we've ever had.
I heard this was inspired by my alma mater, Kyrie Middle School. Go Scorpions. There we go.
Wait, you were a Kyrene middle school?
Yeah.
Punk? I was a Pueblo middle school kid. We were the vastly superior kid, the PMS Bulldogs, if you don't Oh yeah, that was the laugher of the Kyrie district. Eventually they had to change it. Here's the Valley of Death shirt here. The killer scorpion, the beautiful design with the mountains and the backboard in the back. Get it while it is hot, and hopefully the Slim Valley Reaper will be taking care of the Clippers' playoff hopes and guiding them to their restful, fateful end here before too long. Otherwise, we're gonna be a little sad in these parts of town. So we've got a few NBA things to touch on before we get out of here. I know we're running a little long, but wanted to talk about the concept of banning the charge. There were a lot of injuries that happened in the first handful of games in the first round. There is now a push from the Athletics, one of the Athletic writers, to actually ban the charge. Now I've heard it on Twitter from multiple people. I personally think this is asinine, and I'll tell you why in a bit. But, guys, what do you think?
Trash. Straight dookie. It's awful. Could you imagine Giannis with no charge? I mean, granted, he gets away with, running people over anyway. But that dude would average 100 a game. I mean, Jesus. No. It's part of defense. Like, if you don't like it, then don't jump out of the gym trying to fucking dunk on people from the free throw line. Sorry, bud.
Well, why? Because people are getting injured. These guys are taking the risk. I don't know why you'd ban it, because it's part of basketball. It always has been.
All right, so here's the.
Don't do it, Gerald.
We talked when we did our rule changes conversation a few weeks back. We talked about this, and I brought up ban the charge, and I don't think you can fully ban the charge because obviously you need offensive fouls, and this league is already geared so much towards offense now without being able to hand check. If you take the charge away, like you said, a guy like Giannis, guys like Embiid, they're going to average like 20 free throws a game. They're going to get all kinds of points. It would just be too heavily skewed towards advantaging the offensive player. But I do think you can put rules in place. You can change what is a foul and what isn't a foul to make up for that. And I do think you can't ban the charge outright, but the ones where guys stand there when a guy is already in the air, when they try to slide under a guy, those are dangerous plays. Those are plays that need to be cut out. They're not basketball plays. You're not trying to contest the shot. That is a play that you make in middle school because it's a fundamentally sound play. In high school that gets your reputation as a defensive-minded guy. but this is a different level of athleticism in the NBA. And I don't want to ban the charge outright, because a lot of people have had good opinions on this and have come around on that. But I do think it needs to be changed as it currently stands, whether that's moving the restricted area out further so it's not right underneath the basket. Something has to be done, though, because these guys are launching from the free throw line and guys are trying to slide underneath them and take charges. And it's a dangerous play for everybody involved.
I also would like to see them incorporate. I will agree with you. Like, extend the restricted area. I also would like to see them use the collegiate rule, where if you flop, that's an automatic technical. It's a one shot and you get the ball back. There needs to be a penalty for guys like Grayson Allen who are getting posted up by DeAndre Ayton, DeAndre Ayton, just all he does is make a spin move to the left side, doesn't lower his shoulder. Grayson Allen falls and they call a charge just because he flopped the right way. That's bullshit. And especially when you can tell that the big guy is not trying to enforce a lot of contact. That's what gets me, is just these egregious flops. Dylan Brooks is notorious for, flailing, and it's just I'm over that part. And they used to try to enforce the flop, and then it kind of went away a little bit. I think they need to bring that back and enforce that, because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of guys constantly flopping. They should get teed up every single time they do. They should get ejected after the second time they do it in a game. Fuck them.
Well, and you got to call when a guy drops the shoulder too into a guy who's playing legit defense, you got to start calling that too. Like, if you're gonna change fundamentally the way you call charges and the way that these guys can try to stop a guy, you also have to call the things that are legitimate offensive fouls, because it's going to get too easy for the offense to score, and the defense is going to have zero way to stop it in terms of legal plays. So I very much want to see that.
I think the enforcement of the contact should play a large percentage of this. When you look at Torrey Craig getting bulldozed by Giannis earlier in the season, yeah, his feet technically not in perfect position, but there is no doubt who was the enforcer in that moment. And when you look at an opportunity like that, there's just no way you could sit there and tell me that Torrey Craig fouled Giannis. No way. There's
well,
just
and
no
he's
way.
Honestly, he's defenseless in that kind of situation too, when a guy just bowls him over and drops the shoulder. I think you got to take care of that while you're looking at the charge as well. And then another thing from Tim Bontemps, a look at the new CBA. It looks like if a team goes over the second tax apron, they're going to have their first round pick not being able to be traded 7 years in the future. And then teams that exceed that apron twice over the following 4 years will have their pick drop to the end of the first round. So now we get a guy that wants to spend in Phoenix, and now you're punished for wanting to spend.
You know it's about to happen, right? You know it's about to happen, right? James Jones is in panic mode right now, because his whole plan was not to use draft picks and any of that shit. And now he's like, oh, shit. What do you mean we can't spend as much money as we want? We're going to have to figure this out. That scouting department is probably going to get a little beefed up here soon.
Yeah, this is brutal, man. Like, it's so annoying that it feels like this is something where the 24 or 25 owners who are either smaller market teams or don't want to spend the type of money that these 5 to 6 teams are going above and beyond to make a competitive group decided to gang up on the other 5 or 6 and be like, nah, we don't want you setting that example of spending inordinate amounts of money that we're not willing to spend. So this is what we're going to do. Your mid-level, that's trash. Your first round pick, that's trash as well. Like, it's so apparent what's going on. And it sucks, because this is finally a new era of Suns basketball with an owner who is willing to go there. And now you're going to be penalized for it in significant ways at a critical juncture of your team building, because even if the Suns don't win this year, they still have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and DA under contract through the next, 3, 4, 5 seasons, whatever it is. And if you can't build around them because you are hamstrung by your limitations in terms of the mid-level, in terms of bringing in cost-effective talent with a first-round rookie, like you're screwed. And this might be a situation where you have to look at a guy like Darius Baisley, try and re-sign him just so you can trade him and get under those tax aprons.
He puts you too close to the apron. You can't re-sign him, Gerald. We can't do it.
I do genuinely wonder now if you could go back to the trade deadline, and I trust me, I'm a big fan of the KD trade. If James Jones and company rethink that entire trade based on this new information and what the future may lie ahead. Like, you just sacrificed 4 first-round draft picks, and then after the fact, you're told, oh, guess what? By the way, you can't spend as much money as you wanted to before, so now we're really putting the clamps on your hands, and that's complete bullshit, in my opinion.
I think this is the way James Jones was going to build the team anyways. Look at the Miami Heat and the Cleveland Cavaliers. How did they add guys to the roster? Right? It was veteran minimum guys that wanted to come here at the end, that had a little left in the tank, that wanted to play for a championship. I think that's what they were always going to be playing with anyways. So I don't think this is going to change that roster building much, at least next year. Where this becomes complicated is in that, third, fourth year of KD's contract. Does he drop off at all? You're not going to have very many options at that point. Believe me, I would have loved this rule anytime in the previous 17 years because it would have been beneficial to the Suns. But now the fact that we finally are moving on up, the NBA decided to do it. That's not and we're going to start it this offseason. So screw you guys.
OKC about to be fucking 10-time world champions here soon because they got the thing figured out before any of us did. Man.
Yeah. Well, at least we feel a little bit better about game 2. I don't know how I feel about the future. I don't know how I feel about the past, but I feel a little bit better about tomorrow and what we've got right in front of us. You can follow Gerald Bourguet at Gerald Bourguet. Make sure to go to gophnx.com and read his latest article. It was spectacular. You can follow Saul at Saul_Bookman. You can find him cursing at guys on the freeway while he's driving to work and at the PHNX offices. You can follow the show.
I thought they called me the All-City Sam Presti, but I guess I was wrong. My bad.
You can. I didn't see the first round picks we got anywhere. Just a lot of overpriced.
I thought you were one of them. Are you a
I'm an overpriced veteran at this point. I am a way overpriced veteran at this point. You can find the show at PHNX_Suns. You can find me at Espo or, somewhere puttering around with my child. So you can find me there. I don't have anything else to really say. I don't have anything cutesy because I'm driving the bus and everything today. So ahoy hoy.